Welcome to the Fellowship of Beer. What is the Fellowship? You may be a member, you may be familiar with it, and that's why you're watching this video, or you may have just stumbled across it on the internet. Either way, welcome. The Fellowship of Beer is a unique beer box that puts the choices of what is brewing, the creative choices of a community, it puts them in charge of what beers end up in the box. It's not a pick and mix. It's not about just a random selection. It's about creating, it's about designing together, and it's about having fun. The first 100 members of the Fellowship of Beer opened up a month ago. The next 150 members are about to open up. In spring, we'll open up to our final 200 members, and that will be it. 450 members in the Fellowship of Beer, a unique beer community dedicated to the love of beer, exploring different flavours, coming up collaboratively with creative ideas that we will brew together. Doesn't that sound fun? Of course it does. So this video today is just to talk to you about the 4 beers that are in the founding members pack. So this is a beer tasting video. It's a little bit of information about the 4 different styles, the beers and the brewing choices that we made to create these beauties. In the pack we have 4 different beers. We have the Saison Tempranillo, which is a Belgian-style seasonal blonde beer which has been aged in a Spanish Tempranillo barrel. The Hedgerow Vineyard, the Tripel Margaux, which has been aged in a French Chateau Margaux white wine barrel. So it is like a triple, a golden Belgian beer which has taken on notes of that lovely white wine barrel. The third barrel-aged beer is Hedgerow Vineyard. This was a collaboration with Hops and Dots Brewery over in Bishop Auckland. It was 2 years in the making, this beer. It was a bramble barley wine collaboration that had extra blackberries added to it inside a Rioja barrel and then was left for a very long time. And the fourth beer is the rich and decadent Madame's Salon. This is a big imperial stout aged away in a cognac barrel, and it's taken up all those wonderful brandy notes and it tastes like liquid brandy snap in an imperial stout. 4 different beers, 4 beers which have been barrel aged, and this is the greeting pack that the founding members have had. So that's what this video is about. If you want to know about these beers, stick around and I'll be talking about them. If you want to head over to Fellowship of Beer, get over to fellowshipofbeer.org and express your interest, ready for the next sign up. There's a bustling community that you're about to join, which is just full of amazing suggestions. We put out polls to our members. The suggestions are already being carried forward. So people wanted a smoked beer. We gave them options. What type of smoked beer? It's looking like it's going to be a Grodziskie, apologies if you're Polish and I've butchered that, which is a Polish blonde smoked beer. And we've also put together in the poll, what smoked malt would you want in there? The malt we're going to smoke ourselves, and the members have voted on the types of wood, and we will implement that into a brand new beer that no one will taste apart from the members of the Fellowship of Beer. So without further ado, let's get stuck into these delicious beers. First on the list is the barrel-aged Saison Tempranillo. Pours with a lovely golden hue, nice big fluffy white head. It dissipates quickly, but that's not a problem. Now, a note about glassware. We have a lovely steam machine glass, which is like a non-standard pint glass. It has a fluted side, measured. You can take it to festivals with you in thirds, halves, 2/3. You can drink in whatever glass you like, obviously. You can drink from an old shoe. You should drink with the thing that you find the most pleasing to drink from. Personally, I love Belgian beer type glassware. I love drinking from wine glasses. I think they're great at funneling the aromas into the nose. I think they're quite nice to hold, but you know, I have a range of glassware. I love using my 10-sided lantern glass for traditional English beers, and I love using, traditional German glass for lager. So, the choices are absolutely up to you. There's no snobbery when it comes to the Fellowship of Beer. The important thing is knowing that beer was originally, and it still is, the drink of the people. There's no room for snobbery. Drink it from whatever you like. A question which has come up recently is about serving temperatures. And again, this is a personal preference. This is a choice. I like to say, as a rule of thumb, paler and more sparkling the beer, the colder and the thicker and boozier, on the warmer side. You will always taste more of the beer when it's warmer, but sometimes you want a beer to be refreshing. So on the paler sides, you're talking like 9 to 10. On the darker sides, you're talking 10 to 14. This has been in the fridge. It's nicely cold. You can smell some of those woody notes. You can smell those hints of like the spiciness from the Spanish wine. You can get little hints of fruit skins, a little spiciness, but you can still smell that this is Belgian in character. This is a really mellow beer. It's a very balanced beer. It's nice and pale. It lingers on the palate. Initially, you get that, the same kind of characteristics you get from like a Chouffe or a Duvel. Those big, lovely Belgian, a little bit of sweet malt character. And as it's dissipating, that's when you get loads of the flavour of the barrel. You get those kind of tannins creeping in, flavours from the oak that have crept into this beer. And as it warms, you're going to get more and more of those aromatics, more of that fruitiness, more of those flavours. Haven't had one of these for a while. Forgotten how much I liked it. On to our second beer, the Tripel Margaux. Triples are strong Belgian golden beers, usually golden in colour. This is 7.4%, and it's been aged in one of the most expensive and famous wine barrels from the vineyard Chateau Margaux in Bordeaux. I don't know how we got hold of this barrel. It just seemed to be in the cooperage and we managed to get hold of it. It was a really unusual barrel. It had some repairs to it. It was a very old barrel and it smelt amazing. Now, loads of the character of this beer has come from that barrel. I'm absolutely delighted with this. Let's get stuck in. Now, this is relatively young. While it's spent 6 to 8 months in the barrel, it's only been bottled for a month and a half. If you wanted to leave this beer, I think it would carbonate slightly more. I think it would mature a bit more, but I love it absolutely as it is at the moment. It's one of my favourite beers this year. I just think it has such wonderful complexity, but at the same time, it's such a drinkable beer. You can smell this lovely white wine characteristic. You smell like gooseberries. You can smell those white grapes, white currants, red currants, all those lovely curranty soft fruit. Almost like a hint of lemon peel to it as well. It's a bit bolder than the Saison is. It's a bit more heavy on the malt up front, and it's 1.5% stronger as well, so as it should be. It feels slightly softer. It's not as crisp, it's not as sparkling as the Saison is, but it's a lot rounder, fuller and rounder. And just like the Saison, initially you are getting the malt character, you're getting these lovely golden flavours from the malt, from the European malt here, and then at the back end, just as you think the flavour is over, you are hit by this lovely European oak flavour. So the best way to describe it, oaky. It's like slightly herbal, slightly vanilla, slightly woody, and that just lingers on the palate, not in an aggressive way, it just keeps the flavour of the beer going as it goes along. I can't stop smelling this beer. The more I smell it and the warmer it gets, it unfolds with the notes like apricots and freshly cut grass. I could smell this one all day. Cheers. Beer number 3. If you are a follower of Steam Machine, if you've been to Steam Machine's tap room, you will probably have seen Bramble Barley Wine. This, as I said, was a collaboration with Hops and Dots Brewery, who, if you followed, you will know they no longer exist in their current state. But John assures me that you need to watch this space because there may very well be something in the future. How's that for a tease? John and I came up with this beer based on 2 things. Our love of traditional British beer and our love of walks in the countryside. It was, it's 6 different traditional malts with English Bramlin Cross hops and a generous addition of blackberries. Now, we took the remainder of this beer. John from Hops and Dots happened to have a freshly emptied Rioja barrel. We stuck it in the Rioja barrel and we let it do its thing for 18 months on top of even more blackberries. There was some wild fermentation happened. Whatever the yeast was that was in the barrel, or perhaps something that was in the air, things fermented. Perhaps it was the fruit and it was the yeast that already existed. But the barrel went bang one morning, popped its bung, and we quickly, hastily made an airlock for this beer. And we let it do its thing for 18 months. It mellowed. It is such a mellow beer for being so big as it is. It is 9%. And let's get stuck into this one. We bottled this a good 8 months ago, so we've allowed it to have a long maturation period in the bottle as well. This beer is 2 years, over 2 years in the making now. I mean, the smell straight away, you were just hit by the aroma of freshly picked blackberries, tart blackberries, you know, not this sweet kind of jammy aroma. This is, you know, you've picked some fresh berries off the bush kind of smell. And you are assaulted by the spiciness of this Rioja barrel. It is bigger than the Saison Tempranillo smell and taste. This is the closest, one of the closest beers to a wine I believe I've ever made, and we've played a lot at Steam Machine with wine ingredients, with wine yeasts, with grapes, various things, but the barrel brings so much to the party here. The amount of tannins give this beer a very velvety type texture for what is essentially a pale beer. And it disappears very quickly. This beer does not linger. This beer is bold and brazen up front with a velvety texture and then disappears. There's a little initial sharpness, there's that flood of red wine characteristics, and then it's gone and you need another sip. And another. And another. This beer is going to be fantastic on a cheese board. Beer goes great with cheese. Wine goes great with cheese. Here you've got the best of both worlds. Alright, on to the grand finale. Beer number 4. Madame's Salon. Madame's Salon. What can I say about Madame's Salon? I'm going to put it out there and say that I believe this is the best Imperial Stout that we have ever made at Steam Machine Brewing Company. We love Imperial Stouts. We were one of the first breweries in the country making Imperial Milk Stouts, which is putting lactose into an Imperial Stout for big and heavy hitter. Treacle Toffee Stout, you may recall, was an absolute Steam Machine classic back in the day. Grand Bazaar was another one that came along. This was a bigger version of Treacle Toffee Stout, inspired by my Turkish wife growing up in Istanbul and the spice markets there. And you may remember from a year or so ago, Debauchery. Well, we took Debauchery and we put it in a few cheeky places. One of the places we put it was inside this lovely cognac barrel. So this is Debauchery 1, which has been aged in a cognac barrel for half a year and has then been bottled and left for a number of months. Let's get stuck into this one. There's not much head to speak of in this beer. It is a thick, port-like pour. Whatever bubbles do tend to dissipate quickly. If you were to leave it for another 6 months or so, you may very well have some nice creamy fluffy head to it, but you know, I'm not going to let it stick around that long. You could leave this beer for years, you could leave this beer for decades and it would just age and delight in every which way possible, but it's not going to survive that long in my house. I personally do not drink spirits. I keep my palate cleansed, ready for beer, fine tea and water. But you can smell the booze from this straight away. You can smell those warming kind of characteristics. You can smell little hints of spice, little bits like cinnamon creeping out there and ginger. You can smell toffee, you can smell caramel, you can smell treacle, you smell all kinds of naughty words that you would associate with an imperial stout. I think this is liquid brandy snaps. That's what this beer tastes like to us. Like all beers we do at Steam Machine Brewing Company, when we say we use an ingredient, we use an ingredient. We don't use any artificial flavours or sweeteners or anything like this. This is an imperial stout that's been aged in a cognac barrel, and the cognac barrel is what brings all these flavours to the party. This is sweet, but not overly sweet. This is boozy, but not overly boozy. This has notes of cognac, but not overly so. It's chocolatey, but not overly chocolatey. It's extremely balanced for an imperial stout. And I believe the barrel just helps give this extra note. The woodiness ends up with a little slight hint of savoury towards the back end, which just keeps this beer allowing you to have sip after sip after sip. Some imperial stouts out there that are so sickly sweet that you can only almost have a shot of it. Go. This I could sit by the fireside and will drink all night, which I may very well do so once I finish filming this in front of the fire. So that is all 4 beers that are in the Steam Machine Founders Pack, along with a rather fetching hat, a little mini food and beer pairing guide, and just a little taster really of things which are to come with the fellowship. The ideas that have been bounced around our community are incredible. I'm so looking forward to brewing some of the concoctions that the brew community suggested and has voted upon and decided that we are going to implement. It's going to be an exciting year. 2024 is going to be a wonderful year for our small, growing community. These are limited spaces. Like I say, if you want to get involved, get stuck in there. If you love all things beer and this sounds appealing to you, we'd love to have you aboard. So I hope you managed to find a decent beer tonight, because I've got 4 that I need to work my way through tonight. Yeah, we'll see if I have a sore head in the morning. Thanks for watching. Cheers.